Today's book is A Christmas Tree for Pen. On top of the steep, craggy mountain lived a bear of a man named Uther and his small daughter Pen. Uther was this big, rough man. He had a loud, booming voice, large, rough hands, and a bristly black beard. Pen was a small, soft girl. She has quiet, gentle voice, tiny, smooth hands, and two bunches of hair bouncing off either side of his head. Every morning, Pen crawled out of bed and made a hearty breakfast for Uther. "Good morning, Papa," Pen said. "My name is Uther," said Uther. "Good morning, Uther," said Pen. "Umph," said Uther. Uther loved his daughter very much, but he was a bear-like mountain man who did not soften for anyone, not even Pen. He ate his breakfast of hot porridge, honey, and steaming baked bread. It was late December. The trees stood dark against the sky and white snow. Uther pulled on his heavy fur coat and fur boots and set off into the woods. While he was gone, Pen cleared away and washed the dishes. She swept the floor, made the beds, and fluffed the pillows. Pen poked the fire and added more wood. She wanted the cottage to be snug and warm when Uther returned for a cold day's work in the woods. At the end of the day, when the wind whistled around the cottage, Uther returned home. He stamped the snow off his fur boots and burst into a cottage, slamming the heavy door behind him. Pen had set the table and laid out a large bowl of steaming soup for Uther. She set a small bowl for herself. "Good evening, Papa," said Pen. "My name is Uther," said Uther. "Good evening, Uther," said Pen. "Umph," said Uther, and with a grunt he began to eat the hot soup. Pen watched him eat in silence. "Uther," said Pen, "Christmas is coming. Do you think we could have a Christmas tree this year?" "No Christmas tree," said Uther. He continued to eat. Uther was a big, rough man who didn't like to speak what he ate. "I could go with you to the woods to find a perfect tree," said Pen, "and we can decorate it like the people in the village do." "No Christmas tree," said Uther. "I wouldn't have to be a very big tree," continued Pen. "I could make decorations and we could have a real Christmas for the first time." Uther put down his spoon and wiped his bristly beard and mustache with the back of his hand. He looked at his tiny daughter, whose eyes danced brightly in the firelight. "How very much like her mother she is," he thought. "We'll see," said Uther, and with that he crawled into the large wooden bed and fell asleep. Pen sat and stared into the fire. Imagining it would be like to have a real Christmas tree in a cottage. She knew it would not be as beautiful as the decorated trees she had seen in the village. She had been saving bits of odds and even ends that she had found in the woods that might make a fair tree into the real Christmas tree. On Christmas Eve morning, Uther ate his thick porridge and honey and drank a large mug of strong coffee. Pen ate her porridge and her hopeful eyes watching a huge man. Uther pushed away from the table. He pulled out his fur boots, bundled himself into his coat and hat, thrust his hands into thick mittens, and picked up his heavy axe. Pen held her breath and waited. Without a word, Uther stumped out of the cottage. Pen jumped up for his stool and quickly pulled at her fur boots. She became tangled in her fur coat and scarf as she scrambled to put them on. Her fur hat slid down over his eyes. In a rush to get ready, she fell over and sat hard on the floor. "I'll surprise Uther," Pen said to herself. "I'll find a perfect Christmas tree and will cut it down myself and bring it home." He said, "We'll see." Pen pushed open the heavy door. She struggled through the snow, stopping now and then to catch her breath. Finding the perfect Christmas tree is hard work, she thought. Suddenly a heavy clump of snow fell from the thick branch above the buried small girl under its weight. Before Pen knew what happened, Uther scooped her up by a scruff of her neck in one hand. He held her in arm's length and shook the snow of her. "What were you doing here for your coat?" he said. "A big snowstorm's coming." "I want to find a Christmas tree," said Pen, "and surprise you." Uther started hard as a daughter as she shivered in the cold. In one moment he swept her off her feet and placed her on his shoulders. Together they trudged in the dark woods. "Papa," said Pen, "my name's Uther," said Uther. Uther, said Pin. Where do you find a Christmas tree? You'll see, said Uther. They came to open meadow at the edge of the woods. Christmas trees? Exclaimed Pin. Said Uther. But how will we find the right one? Asked Pin. She could barely see through the thickly fallen snow, and then she saw it. The perfect Christmas tree. There, she cried. Over there. Uther jumped to where she pointed and stopped. Pin squirmed and she showed excitement. That's the tree, she said. That's our Christmas tree. Uther heaped it off the shoulders and dropped her in the snow. Pin disappeared from sight. Uther reached down and pulled from the deep snowdrift. He plopped her on top of the large gray boulder. Don't move, he said, before he chopped down the fir tree. Uther and Pin bowed their heads and gave thanks to the fir tree for allowing him to cut down. In 3 swift chops, Uther fell for the tree. He grabbed Pin by the arm and tossed her back in the shoulders. He gripped large axe in one hand and grabbed the trunk of Christmas tree with the other. Father and daughter headed back to the cottage. Pin could not take her eyes out of the fir tree. My first Christmas tree, she thought. The cottage was nearly buried under the snow. Thin blue smoke rose from the chimney and vanished in a thickly fallen snow. Uther stamped his big fur boots outside the door. The snow was falling harder. The mountaintop was shrouded in whiteness. Oh, Papa, said Pin, it's the most perfect Christmas tree. My name's Uther, said Uther. Uther found an old tub and filled with water. He placed the fir tree in its embrace with his stones so that it should tall and straight, just as it had done in snowy meadow. Pin clapped her hands and danced in front of the fir tree. It's beautiful, she said in a hushed voice. Just beautiful. Now you have a Christmas tree, said Uther. But it's not finished yet, said Pin. We have to decorate it, said Uther. Pin dashed across the room and opened a wooden chest at the foot of her bed. From inside, she took out a collection of all the things she had found in the woods. First, she took out a banded bird's nest, some of the hunch eggs that are dry out but is still unbroken. Pin reached into the wooden chest again and pulled out a number of old wasp nests with their intricate honeycomb pattern. She pulled out several small hornets' nests that she had carefully wrapped in paper. Large acorns tumbled onto the floor in a small bag. In another bag she had collected bright red berries. Then she took out her most priceless treasure of all, birds' feathers that she had gleaned during her walk to the wood. The feathers were all sizes of colors, shimmering blues and greens, vibrant reds and yellows, and glossy blacks and purples. One by one, she carried out the treasures and placed them carefully on the floor in front of the fir tree. Now we can decorate the Christmas tree, she announced. Uther silently watched the Pin's bustling tree, carefully placing the nest. She tied bits of string on top of the hornet's nest and the branches to throw whispered against the dark green of fir tree. Pin hung the acorns all over the tree. She sat on the floor and one needle in her hand, strung the berries onto the long piece of sturdy thread. Uther held her high so that she could hang her ornaments on the topmost branches. He helped her wrap the berry garland around the Christmas tree, starting at the top of the carefully working their way down to the bottom. Now the feathers, Pin said. Together they placed the brightly colored feathers among the branches until the fir tree glistened in color. It's beautiful, she said. A real Christmas tree. Uther stared at the tree in amazement. It was beautiful. Wait, he said as stumped down the stone steps into the cold cellar. Pin could hear the rummaging around below. Uther clumped up the stone steps into the light. He held a small package. For your Christmas tree, he said. It belonged to your mother. He had a small bundle of Pin. Pin started. What is it? She asked. Open it, said Uther. Pin slowly unwrapped the package. Inside was the most beautiful bird she had seen. It was made of the real feathers with 2 black beads and eyes and 2 long feathers streaming behind. Pin started Uther. I made it for your mother, Uther said softly, at the top of the Christmas tree. Pin carefully held the bird in his hands. It's the most beautiful bird I have ever seen, Pin whispered. Uther gently lifted her, and Pin placed the bird at the very top of the tree. Uther set her back and forth, and the two of them gazed at one of the Christmas tree. In the firelight, the feathers of the bird glistened and shimmered. A real Christmas tree, said Pin. A real Christmas tree, said Uther. Thank you, Uther, said Pin. My name's Papa, Uther said. Thank you, Papa, cried Pin, throwing her arms around his neck. The fire burned low. Pin yawned. Uther quietly carried Pin to the bed. Good night, daughter, said Papa. Merry Christmas. The end.